2 weeks have passed since Tom Weissman started working at WebFirst Banking Corporation. He made some significant progress at work. As he settled into his new role at WebFirst, among the first things that he sensed with the top management and some of the very senior managers in the company is their overall conviction, commitment, and urgency to move forward with the transformational changes proposed and the hope that it would propel the bank ahead to a new era of growth and market leadership. He noticed that many strategic initiatives were in various stages of being proposed, articulated, created, funded, and some of them were also being implemented through various enterprise projects and programs of work. But one of the downsides of being a very large corporation such as WebFirst is the difficulty to achieve coordinated outcomes across various initiatives. And also, he noticed that very little rigor is applied to keep these initiatives on track and in alignment with the strategic objectives. Most managers lament how many of these initiatives over time lose their alignment to strategy, and by the time they are implemented, they end up losing their strategic value. And this, they say, is how various enterprise programs fail short of achieving the intended competitive advantage for the business. Among the first things that Tom did was to put together an approach to establishing an enterprise architecture capability within WebFirst, which would enable WebFirst to translate strategy from abstract intentions to delivered business outcomes. His approach was based on TOGAF architecture capability framework tailored to the business environment and the specific context of WebFirst. Tom established a bi-weekly catch-up between himself, Ned, and Lisa, the CEO and the CSO respectively, to keep them updated on his progress. And this, by the way, he informed them, is also to obtain their feedback, suggestions, and guidance on an ongoing basis as he works his way towards establishing WebFirst's enterprise architecture capability. In the meeting, Tom rose up to present his approach and at the outset said, "Based on my reasoning, I believe WebFirst needs the EA capability established as an ongoing practice rather than as was attempted before through many one-off projects or programs of work. This," he explained, "will go a long way to create a sustainable architecture capability and function that integrates appropriate organizational structures, processes, roles, responsibilities, and skills, as well as it will help in operating the capability as a self-governing, continuously learning and adapting function directed at solving the company's business problems." He showed them a schematic view of the components of an enterprise architecture practice that he is proposing, and went on to describe its constituents. He highlighted the resource pool block within the diagram and explained, at its core, the capability will have a resource pool of experienced and skilled architects with a mix of specializations ranging from business architecture, applications architecture, data, infrastructure architecture, security and solutions architecture, and so forth. He continued, the skills framework and the accountability matrix defines how enterprise architecture function will be organized. And he noted the resources will have to constantly advance their skills and knowledge, at least in the areas relevant directly to their work. And hence, training and professional development initiatives are considered a key and integral component of the capability. Ned and Lisa were listening keenly as Tom continued to elaborate further. Architects from this resource pool may work on enterprise-level architecture initiatives as part of an ADM iteration, or they may be engaged directly to facilitate architecture implementation of one or more projects or programs to provide ongoing governance to ensure that the enterprise initiatives are on track to deliver the intended strategic outcomes. The architects in the resource pool may be dedicated to one program or project, or they may span across multiple of them at any given time. Ned nodded acknowledgingly as the big picture view began to emerge in his mind. Tom continued, architecture governance would make use of the contracts, which typically incorporate metrics, strategic objectives, stakeholder concerns, patterns, practices, and so forth. Tom clarified further. In addition to the governance of architecture development and their implementation through portfolios of projects and programs, the entire capability should have an overall governance layer chiefly composed of the strategy organization and the executive leadership to ensure that the capability is functioning optimally and the overall capability is contributing to the achievement of evolving priorities of the enterprise. At this point, Lisa leaned forward and pointed to the diagram inquiringly and said, Tom, I'm assuming that the block at the far right represents the tactical and operational concerns of the business. Yes, you're right, Lisa, said Tom promptly. These represents the organization's tactical and operational priorities and concerns, and typically they are addressed directly by various enterprise initiatives. However, if there are any architectural changes that these introduce, then it is governed through this capability. And finally, said Tom, the architecture capability is supported by a central architecture repository, which can be accessed, searched, and added to by architects and other relevant resources across the enterprise. This capability is often enabled through enterprise architecture tools that help diagram, document, publish, and share various architecture artifacts and deliverables across the enterprise stakeholders. Ned and Lisa had several questions around the components just described, and Tom clarified each of them patiently before he moved on to describe a process which he said will help WebFirst move from where they are currently as an organization to building up and operating a full-fledged architectural capability.